When did the class clown take it too far? He tried to pants the teacher. I knew a guy, high school student in the late 60s. He and his best friend were very close, but had also dated the same girl. My buddy dated this girl first. Now the friend was dating her, no problems. But they both understood how this could be perceived as a potential friendship ender. They had a joke all planned out. The best friend grabbed some ketchup packets from a fast food restaurant. After lunch, he was sitting in class with the packets torn slightly, tucked unnoticeably in his hand. My buddy had the starter pistol from the track and field team. You see where this is going? My buddy ran into the classroom and shouted, "You can't steal my girl from me. If I can't have her, no one can." He fired the starter pistol filled with blanks, not bullets, in the direction of his best friend. The friend, who had jumped up from his desk during the shouting, clutched his chest from the fake bullet wound, sending horrifying streaks of red ketchup flying all over his whitted shirt. He collapsed. The look of horror on the face of every student in the room, my buddy said, was amazing. He and his best friend both got detention. Yeah. In context of the time, that's actually a pretty great prank, to be honest. It just hasn't aged well. One time the class clown asked what the teacher's wife, another teacher, was like in bed. It was so goddamn awkward. My high school class clown made a joke in a dead silent classroom about boning a teacher with another teacher in the room. His situation afterwards wasn't great. Ate a shit ton of notebook paper and ended up going home after he projectile vomited on the goddamn floor. This one kid thought it would be funny to snort a line of that sour powder. This was no small line, mind you. I actually think he was rubbing it off the candy. Anyways, he does his line and instantly starts screaming. His nose was gushing blood and I honestly think he popped a blood vessel in his eye, ran out of the room and later saw an ambulance come to the school. Called our teacher's daughter, whose name is Maya Khalifa. The teacher then proceeded to search up Maya Khalifa in front of the whole class. When he yelled, "I lost my virginity to my dog," during a quiet moment in class, every head whipped around to stare in horror. Straight up just peed on the floor in the middle of class and convinced the teacher it was spilled water, so he cleaned it up. Honestly, not even class clown shit at that point. Just being a gross stick. He didn't get in nearly enough trouble. Kid was always doing dumb stunts just to make people laugh. He got sick of climbing on in random things and jumping stairs one day and decided it'd be funny to smack into walls. His first few walls were fine as they were all concrete. There was a girl crying in the hallway and he figured he could make her laugh by making a funny face and tackling the glass door. He went through the door. Did it make her laugh? When I was in 3rd grade, we were all doing our thing. Coloring, reading, etc. The class clown was being really noisy and kept goofing off. We were all having fun and the class clown eventually sat down. It wasn't long before he was laying on the floor, foaming out of his mouth, shaking violently. We all laughed. It was a joke, right? Before long the teacher came rushing over to see the new joke the kid came up with. She immediately called 911 and he was rushed out of the room. He had a seizure while the whole class thought he was joking. He recovered and everything was fine. I just feel bad for the kid. Friend decided to shove his hands into my back pockets and grab my ass. Wasn't wearing a belt. Ended up panting me straight to the floor. I was wearing spandexy type underwear at the time. Caught those on the way down too and ended up like pulling it down to where my penis sprung out of them. What was bad was worse, as our track coach had just walked in looking for me and she got a full frontal. Not to mention the class saw everything as well as I tried to pull my pants up, only to realize my penis was out on full display. Didn't even get detention, shaking my head. Kid in my band class still thought Yo Mama jokes were funny. We came back to school for the first time after Hurricane Sandy, and the kid goes to the teacher, "Yo Mamas," and the teacher cuts him off, "Died in the hurricane." The kid never told another one of those jokes in that class. I'm a teacher. A female colleague told her class about how she was going to spend the holidays resting in her bed. Kid said loudly, "Oh, can I join?" Silence. He yelled at my English teacher from across the room, "Your puns are more cancerous than girl's name." She was terminally ill with cancer and never came back to school after that day. It was cooking class and decided to pour oil and flour on the stairs. The students ran to the stairs and they all fell. Somebody in my botany class decided to blow up the ack in the room with a firecracker. It sucked because if they hadn't, I would have been done with my finals a week earlier. We had a teacher in middle school who had a wig and a glass eye. We had 3 class clowns that teamed up, and at the end of the year, she left just because of their constant disruptions and bullying. I actually really liked her and always felt bad for her. There was a class clown in my class and another one from the senior class at the time. They'd collaborated to throw toilet paper all over the schoolyard as a joke. I forget exactly what it was, but there was some kind of very important event going on that day and we were supposed to have a lot of visitors that afternoon. The principal was not amused. He said if they'd done that on any other day, he'd probably just let it go after making them clean it up. They got detention, and one of the teachers made them personally apologize to the elderly janitor who had to clean that shit up in the dark when it was freezing cold. Edit: the janitor found the mess when he'd gotten to school that morning while it was still dark around 6 AM or so. He started cleaning it up himself before anyone knew who did it. The office pulled the footage from the outdoor security cameras later that morning. Because it was such a small school, those dudes were identified in about 30 seconds, laughing my butt off. My roommate was a class clown type. We had both been out of school 4 years at this point. One day, I spent the entire day making syrup. It's a long process of letting the ingredients simmer down for hours, but it's a labor of love, and I was willing to do it. After I finished the syrup, I put it in the fridge to cool while I got a shower. For some freaking reason, my roommate decided to pour a bunch of hot sauce in my syrup, ruining the whole pot and wasting my entire day. He didn't understand why I didn't find it funny and got pissed when I got mad. He was a jerk. Senior year, teacher wouldn't give her a hall pass to use the bathroom, which was ridiculous. Instead of taking a more conventional stand, like walking out of the room, she sat down in her desk and pissed her pants. She was suspended. I forget for how long. There were editorials back and forth in the school paper. I was on team teacher shouldn't try to control our bowels, but also maybe don't piss on the floor. Though I do appreciate your taking one for the team. I had my moments of class clonery. The only one I really regret all these years later was from middle school. My science teacher was telling us his story about dealing with bullies. Back in his day, some punks were messing with him and his friends and he confronted them. At some point in the exchange, he said something like, "Come at me anytime. I'm not hard to find." I'm paraphrasing. For some reason my dumb brain thought not hard to find, easy to spot, so large that you can see him from anywhere. Looking for a laugh, I spoke up and said, "Why, were you fat?" There was some muffled laughter, but all I really remember was the teacher topping almost mid-sentence, staring daggers at me, face red as heck. He stopped his story, turned to his desk, and told us curtly to just work on homework. He barely said anything the rest of the class. I felt like absolute shit. It didn't register to me that, yeah, maybe he struggled with his weight as a kid and that was part of the bullying. I really didn't imagine he was a fat kid or anything. It was just a play on the easy to find mental image. Duck. I apologized as best I could at the end of class, but it was tense. At the end of the year he actually awarded me a best science student award or something like that. You know how they'll do a bunch of student awards for attendance and other shit. I think the fact that he did that means he forgave me, but I still feel like a massive heel every time I think about that. When our science teacher went into the lab closet and he blocked the door with a filing cabinet. Then later in the year he got caught as he was about to put baby oil on the floor. He farted loudly every single day in Mr. Jensen's social studies class. It got really old. I tripped a kid who was running for lunch back when I was in high school. He didn't get back up. Thought he'd broken his leg. Ambulance called. Kid taken away in full view of well over 1,000 plus. Got called out quite rightly for the cunt I'd been. And then, thankfully, comforted by the same kids when I became distraught at the though of what I'd done to this poor kid. After a rather sleepless and guilt-ridden night I found out that he had a dead leg and was fine. 30 years later, and I still freak out at what 14-year-old me did. I'm so sorry Tristan. What's a dead leg? Like your leg fell asleep. When he opened a can of tuna and put it in the teacher's bag. This teacher was such a nice lady and only ever tried to help him. Disgusting behavior. Usually kids rebel against those trying to help them most. I was the same way. Young and dumb, and on a bad path. Luckily my dad's stepdad was a little more stubborn than me. I owe that man my life because of it. When he casually laid down his pee-pee on my armchair to impress my girl best friend who was my seatmate. Big in it, he said with a proud smirk looking at my friend. Bruh. We had a younger, not great looking, substitute teacher and everyone was cracking jokes. The sub yelled at the class and the word disrespectful slipped out. This man had the audacity to tell out bruh your teeth are disrespectful and got sent to the dean and was later suspended. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit universe.